On how to use the random function to make different things kind of run randomly in your game the way you want. So right now, what's already set up is a game that has a basic floating drawing function that makes stuff float, and then I've got three variants: a circle, square, and a rectangle that fly around. Um, and right now I just call them, and these will disappear after a certain amount of time. And if you click the screen, a new shape will appear. Right now it's always a rectangle, and I would like it to be a random new shape. Um, I'd also like it to change to a random color instead of just being in the same place. So to do that, I'm going to use the random function and lists together. Um, Basically, the idea of the random function, in JavaScript, all it does is gives you a random number between 0 and 1. So if you want to do anything that involves randomness, you have to figure out how can I make that into something I can do based on a number. So to start off, let me just show you what's already been done here. If we look at this floating drawing function, um, I want the new drawing to show up in a random x and y position and with a random velocity. And rather than just be sort of a number that I type in that's 300, I want it to be different each time. So what I do is I have the width and the height variables from the game's getSize method that tells me how big the game screen is. Um, and then I multiply those by Math.random. So that takes a random number between 0 and 1, multiplies it by however wide the screen is. So, 0.7 times 500 or whatever will be 70% of the way across the screen. So that's an easy way. If we just have scales, we usually just multiply. So do you want a random number between 1 and 1,000? Multiply. If we want to be a little bit nicer to the computer, we can do math.floor, which will cut off the decimal part. It can make JavaScript actually a little bit slow when it keeps all those decimals around on these drawings. And there's no point in a decimal. It doesn't, 4.27 pixels is meaningless to your computer. So I'll throw a math.floor on there. You're not going to see any difference, but now they're nice, even numbers. Okay, so now let's get to something a little bit fancier. Right now I've got this color here that's red. I would like there to be a random color. So how do I take something like a list of colors and make it into a number? So what you can do is you can have a list of colors. So here I'll make red, purple, green, yellow, orange. And the useful thing to know is that lists have various properties that are numeric. So for example, if instead of saying colors red, I said colors 2, all of these are going to change to the green one because I count 0, 1, 2, and the 2th item or the 3rd item is green. If I were to make that number into a 5, it would lo and behold be the 5th or the 6th in human terms number, gold. So we can use a number here. So that's going to look very much like the numbers we did below here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say math.random times. Now I could count these 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just say times 5. That's kind of bad programming. What I would rather do is say colors.length, which uses the length property of the list. Now it automatically scales. Okay, you'll notice this program is not working. The reason it's not working is that I didn't do the math floor. A list index has to be an integer. When you give a decimal, it comes out with nonsense, and the nonsense is undefined, and rather than throwing an error, JavaScript just does its best, and if you say the color is undefined, it says, well, you probably meant black. So here now, if I change it to math.floor, these are in fact random colors, and every time I make a new shape, it will be a random color. And if I wanted to add new random colors, all I have to do is type them. And it won't matter how many there are because I use the length. So that's a very simple technique to just take the idea of a random number and turn it into the idea of a random item. All right, let's use the same technique now to fix my click handler so that rather than making all these new rectangles, it makes new shapes of the kind that I want. So we made a list of colors up here by making a square bracket and then the strings and then commas separating them. We can do exactly the same thing with functions. So I've got 3 functions here: make circle, make square, make rect. And I'm going to need to make a list of them. So I'll make a list called, you know, drawing functions. You could call it whatever makes sense for your context or your game. And I'll say make circle, make square, and make rect are the drawing functions. And then down here in my click handler, instead of calling make rect, I'm going to say drawing function equals, actually I've got to do a let drawing, or const we could do there. Drawing function equals drawing functions Math.random times, this is, I'm running out of space, I'm going to hit a space at drawing functions.length, and of course I've got to wrap that in math.floor or it won't work. So now my drawing function is going to be a random item, and then I'm just going to call it. So what's kind of cool is here I'm calling drawing function. You're saying, well, what's drawing function? Drawing function is one of these. So what the computer will do is it will first measure this list, get its length. Its length is 3. It will then multiply a random number times 3 and get the floor of that, which will be either 0, 1, or 2. Let's say it gets 0. Then it's going to go to the function and get the 0th item. That's make circle. It's going to set drawing function to make circle, and then when I call drawing function, it's going to make a circle. Let's test it out. There we go. A bunch of random shapes and random colors appearing. All right, I hope that was helpful. Under 10 minutes is always my goal. Have a good one.